Hi, friends. It's Shaku Harpo. Welcome to this episode of Brown Girl Guild. It's titled Character Development, and I'm incredibly excited to host and chat with my friend, Arnie Sandhu. Some of y'all may have known him as Arnie McFly, Gary from his videos, or the guy that works really hard in the gym. But for me, he's one of the most creative people I've ever met. Arnie and I became friends when he first followed me on Instagram back in 2019. He'd reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to be in one of my videos?" I was so excited at the time. I couldn't even believe that Arnie McFly wanted me to be in a video with him. I said yes, obviously, and that video is absolutely hilarious. I run into so many people till this day who say, "Oh, hey, I saw you in Arnie's video." Or sometimes when I'm chatting with followers in the DMs, they tell me that they initially followed me because they saw me in Arnie's video. Arnie's video. Now, that's something I've heard a million times now since I've known him. A lot of, "Hey, did you see that hilarious video by Arnie?" Or, "Hey, Arnie's You videos are so freaking funny. Have you seen them?" What I love most about Arnie's content is this. When I was at a friend's house, there were a few out of town folks there for a wedding. And to acquaint these out of towners with Surrey, the homeowners actually chose to play Arnie's videos from YouTube on the TV. They sat the out of towners down and basically said, here is Surrey. And I absolutely love that. Now, Arnie has gone through tremendous shifts and transitions, especially in the last year. He's gone from Arnie McFly to Arnie Sandhu right in front of our eyes and has created a space for himself that might seem brand new to us, but if you ask him, it's kind of been a long time coming. So, in this episode, I ask Arnie about his character development. It left me feeling so confident and fulfilled about my own character development. And I'm sure it's going to inspire all of you in the exact same way as well. Hi, Arnie. How are you?
I'm good, Harpo. How are you?
Good. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. You and I have been friends for like a couple years now, and I think this is like the first time that we're collaborating. The only other time that we collaborated was when we did that hilarious video, which honestly I go back and watch often because I think it's so funny.
Yeah,
But this is the first time we're like officially collaborating, and I'm so excited.
facts. Many more to come though after this.
100%. So I want to get right into it and just say that, as your friend and as someone who has, kind of been an Arnie McFly fan, you've been through so many transitions this last year, from Arnie McFly to just Arnie Sandhu as your Instagram, as your Instagram name. And then having so much content on your socials page to barely any at all. And perhaps also like stylistically tweaking your comedy too and how the kind of content that you're producing. You've changed a lot. What made you change from Arnie McFly to Arnie Sandhu on Instagram?
So when I came up with the name Arnie McFly, I was literally just chilling out watching a movie,
Hmm.
um, Back to the Future, and the main character's name was Marty McFly. I was like, whatever, changed it, posted a video, and it kind of did numbers, and I kind of just ran with it for like the beginning of kind of my like creative career, you could say, right? But as of recent, everything was kind of just like not fulfilling, you know. So it wasn't like I felt like what I truly wanted to kind of like do with my creativity. I was always kind of like afraid to do, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then it was all kind of like masked behind this Arnie McFly figure and stuff, right? And I felt like when people started really like liking Arnie McFly, I wasn't too sure where to go with it because I was like, yo, I don't even know how I feel about this little character I've created, this persona I've created, you know?
Hmm.
So I had to kind of like sit with myself and be like, okay, like, do I even really want to do this? To be honest, like this little comedy gig, because I have a lot of other passions too, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what's the long term thing, right? And so when I did decide to actually, go hard with just the arts. I would say the arts. I don't want to say content creation necessarily anymore. Just
Hmm.
the arts. I knew I had to kind of change my name, right? Because Arnie McFly, it just wasn't a part. It just wasn't me anymore. To be honest, it was something that I came up with, kind of on the spot, way back in the day when I was a youngin, still exploring,
Hmm.
and it doesn't really resonate with me. It doesn't what's that word? It doesn't really like showcase who I truly am. You know what I mean? I
Right.
rather just it's like the childish Gambino to like Donald Glover transition
Hmm.
a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, the reason that I even asked you was because like I mean, I did the same thing, right? I started it's Harpo. The current page was used to be called It's Harpo back in 2018 is when I started it. And I only did that because nothing else like just Harpo wasn't available or
Yeah,
and actually It's Harpo came from like a Tumblr account that I had and like no other Tumblr name was available, so I just did It's Harpo. And then I did that for Instagram. And then it didn't feel like a very intentional name at the time. And so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna switching to Brown Girl Guilt was so difficult. Like I sat on it for like a month and I felt so attached to its Harpo, and switching it to Brown Girl Guilt was so hard. And I mean, like very candidly, I've been thinking really hard about going back to its Harpo, still doing Brown Girl Guilt type of content, but changing it back to its Harpo because, I feel you. Like, I feel like in a way, it kind of puts you in a box and then you're not able to do everything. Like, you can't do everything that you are. And for at least for me, I don't know if this is the case for you. I felt like I was being restricted to just like that one thing or you have to fit this kind of like brand or overall identity where when you're Arnie Sandhu, you can just show up as your full authentic self and do and explore all the elements of yourself.
exactly. And it's been like a hard transition because people know me as Arnie McFly, so
Hmm.
they still say Arnie McFly, right?
Yeah.
But I was in Richmond, and yeah, I was in the drive-through, and there was like these five kids, just a mix of kids, and then I drove by, and I guess they recognized me, and they're like Arnie Sandhu, Arnie Sandhu. I'm like, oh shit, okay. I'm like,
It's
yo,
happened.
yeah,
The transition.
I'm like, yo, it's happening.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
Yeah, even when I changed it to It's Harpo, all my friends like lost their shit. They were like, "What do you mean you're not It's Harpo anymore?"
Facts.
Um, what was it like for you to delete? I mean, albeit maybe probably archive, but like get rid of all that content because I know when I did that, I just deleted. I actually, in hindsight, should have archived all my previous content.
Yeah.
I deleted it all. But what was it like for you to like take that off of your page? Were you attached to it? Did it was it jarring? Like, what was it like?
So I wasn't attached to it, first of all,
Mm,
because I feel like when I made all those things, I didn't even expect none of them to blow up, especially the Surrey
mm,
edition stuff. I didn't expect that to do what it did, you know?
yeah.
We kind of just made it, and it went insane. So yeah, I wasn't attached to it. Like a lot of videos, I just look back and I cringe, right?
Hmm.
But there's like something so liberating about like I wouldn't say like disposing because I didn't get like, there's probably on meme pages. I still have all the content, but it's
Hmm.
like just taking it off the page. There's something so liberating because not only am I kind of telling people like, okay, like there's gonna be like a fresh start now, right?
Right.
And whether you guys like it or not, that's just how it is. Because people are still asking me, yo, can you upload this and can you send me that? And it's like, no, I can't. And secondly, just looking at my page now with just those
Mhm,
three pictures there, just the three posts there, it's so liberating. It's like a clean slate, and it's like, okay, who now after like all these years of just doing so many different things, actually, I'm at this place where I feel like I have a grasp on what I truly want to do, and
mhm,
I get to paint it ground up now because it's a
mhm,
clean, it's like a brand new canvas. You know, the painting that was there before I've picked up and I put up somewhere in the corner. You know, and now there's a new
mhm.
painting that I get to start on.
And I think it's what I see a parallel between our experiences. It's like you and I were a bit detached and we were like, no, we know this is what we need to do. But people around us might have felt really attached to it and they might have had an identity crisis for us. Right. I know when I saw your videos go away, I was like, okay, but like, these are funny. Like I like going back and watching them. And, or like when friends from out of town would come, we would put your videos on the TV. That still happens. Like I'll go to people's houses and they'll be like, "Oh, you're not from Surrey. Let me show you like this guy from Surrey who makes these really funny videos." And not having access to that anymore, I feel like other people are more upset about, all the removal and the taking off and the fresh canvas than perhaps we are sometimes.
100%. The Surrey editions I've left up on my YouTube channel just because I know people mess with them so heavy, so people can watch them, but they just got to go to my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, no, I totally get you what you mean on that. Like people around us, like even with like the physical change this year, I didn't
Hmm.
tell anyone just because I knew everyone was gonna panic more than I was already kind of like, you know, I've already thought about it and stuff.
Right.
And everyone was kind of just, and this was the crazy part, everyone was just considering the internet persona, you know, what
Hmm.
would the internet think? And it became so much more about the internet than it did about me. like
Mhm.
just me behind even the persona. And
Yeah.
which is why I like told two people, and then after that I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go about my life, right?
Yeah.
Because the internet is such a small fraction of my life. Why would I make it so large?
Right. Yeah. I think people forget that you're not who you are. Like you're not your social media. Like that's something that I've had to learn is like you have an entire life, an entire personality, you have an entire mission and vision aside from just social media. I know I was victim of that and that's why sometimes I have to periodically take a break to kind of remind myself of that because sometimes it gets so easy to think that this is your entire life. And I've actually said this in numerous occasions that sometimes I view my entire life through the Instagram story lens of like, what can I capture? What can I post? What am I getting? Like, what kind of reactions am I getting? And it's so all consuming when your entire life becomes this social media slash internet persona,
Yeah, 100%.
right? Um, I wanted to ask you, how what it's been like to be that persona. I mean, you've touched on it a little bit. You've literally grown up in front of this community, and for the most part, you can't really go anywhere without people knowing you. Like you just said, you're in Richmond, and these five kids were like Arnie. Um,
Yeah.
what has it been like? I mean, now you've said you wanna consider it more of an arts, environment and rather content creation. But what has it been like being, a YouTube influencer, an Instagram influencer? What's it been like for the last few years?
Um, Stressful, not gonna lie. Just because
Yeah, I
I
bet.
think if I'm being honest, and this is what I mean, where the shift is coming from as well, is because that's just not me, to be honest. I don't know if I'm like an influencer, if I'm like a public figure, if that makes sense, right? Like
Mhm.
that's what I thought I was, but I don't think that's what I am, right? So yeah, people put you on this weird pedestal, and I'm not really down for that. So I'm kind of glad that I did everything that I did. So now it's like, okay, think badly of me, please do, because I don't want to live up to your standards, right? But if you do
Mhm.
gain inspiration from me, take it. Um, and it's like, yeah, you got to move different, and you got to always be so cautious, especially when you're like an influencer slash public figure. You know what I mean? That
Right.
little like category is so like people are so like uptight about it and stuff, right? Um,
Mhm.
and then that's why I just want to leave it because at the end of the day, like to truly we're human, right? There's so many complexities, we're so many um, different things, and I feel like when you just put yourself as an influencer and public figure, you're kind of like, I'm a human, but I'm gonna be a robot for a second. You
Right.
hop online and you're like, hey guys, just wanted to share this product that I got paid for. You know what I mean? Yeah, I use it every day, all the time. Great brand. That's just not me. I'm just being honest. So,
Right.
yeah, it is. You got to think about a lot of things, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. And that's why just trying to just trying to be the authentic self, and
Yeah.
trying to not like get too caught up in that influencer space
Mhm. But I think
anymore.
it's still difficult because, like, you might that shift might have happened inside, but then when you go outside, people don't know, right? So,
Yeah,
you can try as hard as you want to be like, "I'm not this influencer, and I'm taking myself off this pedestal that people have put me on," but people don't want to take you off the pedestal, right? People
yeah,
don't wanna stop having their nose in your business when you're out. Straight up, like my friends are always like, Harpo, like you're single. Why don't you go on Bumble? Like, why don't you, make a Bumble account? I'm like, yo, bro, can you no? Like, I could never make a Bumble. You know how many people in Surrey know me? And they would like
yeah,
screenshot that shit and send it into the group chats and be like, yo, Harpo's on Bumble.
yeah.
So it's like, even if I'm like, okay, I'm not
But
giving
no,
myself
like,
this
but
space,
but
right?
stuff like that too. Like, apparently, there's been like there's been many fake accounts made of me and like
Hmm.
on Tinder and Bumble and shit. But it's like you can't really do too much about it, right? Just being
Yeah.
honest, you got to just keep doing you, and that's what I mean, right? I really do feel like it does start kind of internally, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second we stop caring, um, like I can't really control like people I can't control people putting me on a pedestal. All I can do is just say, yo, I ain't on that pedestal, right? So I just get off that chair
Right.
and walk away. But I totally get what you're saying as well, It is
Yeah.
a difficult transition for sure.
Yeah, I think see that's something that I need to learn to be like, it doesn't matter. It's internal and if you don't care then, it doesn't matter what other people are saying. That's been something that I still have to learn how to navigate because I'm nowhere near where Arnie McFly was. The goal is to get there, but I'm nowhere there. But I'm sure there was tons of things that you had to do differently. Like you said, you had to move differently. You kind of have to like. I feel like for me at least, every time I step out of the house, I'm very cognizant of like eyes on me all the time, and it's just not a way to live. But what's interesting is this idea of the pedestal that you mentioned, that the same people that put you on the pedestal are the same ones that knock you down first, right? They're the ones that are going to knock you down the hardest because it's their expectations that you did not meet up to.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, you really do gotta like move different. It's like a different it's like a different kind of lifestyle, be moving like a ninja out there because you never know. And that's
Yeah.
like you just wanna I kind of like to turn like this person not this I don't like to turn this personality off, but I don't like to take it with me everywhere, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first time that I ever met you, we had a coffee,
Yeah.
and I remember being like, "Arnie, you're so much different than I thought you were gonna be." And you were like, "Why? What do you mean?" And I dead ass thought you were gonna be that like Surrey Jack kind of persona that you are in your videos. And then I met you and you were so articulate, you were calm, right? Like just the way that you are in this space right now. That's how you were. And at the time it was very jarring for me because I walked into that hangout with so many expectations of what I thought Arnie McFly was going to be.
Yeah.
Not it's not that I was disappointed at all, but it was and if I had allowed myself to get disappointed, I have enough emotional intelligence to understand that it was my own expectations. But you're right. It's like you can't always be on. You can't always have that persona and move around through the world with that because then that's the box that people are going to start to put you in and see you in.
Exactly. And yeah, that's why I kind of had to just destroy the box. Just coming back to like where this conversation even started, right?
Yeah, I
Just
love that.
completely name shift. Like everything kind of just shifted a little bit. Just completely destroy the box and be as disruptive as possible because that's kind of the only way to move forward, right?
Mhm.
With like your authentic self being out there, right?
Right. I want to ask you a question that I just thought of now, and I think it'll really lead into where I want this conversation to go. But you said most of your videos and most of the characters that you played were very rooted in Surrey, right? Like the Surrey
Yeah.
edition, the Surrey Jack. Um, Tell me why you used Surrey as inspiration. How did Surrey become such an important element of your content and your videos?
Okay, first of all, growing up in Surrey, there was never like whenever there was something like this,
Mhm.
right? I remember being that kid being like, holy, like this is the future. Like we actually have a future that's gonna build here because I knew it was gonna transition from that to something greater, right? And
Mhm.
so it's kind of like, why would I niche comedy and niche things, right, are so beautiful in my opinion, right? Because you make
Mhm.
it in a niche space and then
Mhm.
it blows up and now the whole world knows about it, right?
Right.
Um, and that's why I always knew that I wanted to derive everything from Surrey because I've grown up in Surrey. Why would I ever dodge that, right?
Yeah.
Everything that I've experienced has been in this city, the positives, the negatives, whatever it may be, right? And that's like
Mhm.
my truth, right?
Mhm.
Um, all everything that we're trying to display is my truth. And even though the Gary character is made up, it's um, I've like derived it from many different people in my life, right? And I've done so much like development of that character, right? And we're like, where can
Mhm.
we take this person? Even though it is kind of like I said, he's like a mythical he's like a mythical creature almost, right? Like no
Yeah.
one's to that extent. Maybe they are, who knows, right? Maybe I just haven't
Right.
met someone to that extent, but it just has to be from Surrey because it's like, why would I want to like mimic other places, right? And then leave
Mhm.
my city like open for other people to kind of do it. And I've just seen it never done justice, and I'm going to continue to do it even with the new stuff, right? and
Mhm.
and moving forward till like I'm like 40, 50, it's always going to be to bring it back here because if we can
Right.
create like something here, a space here, a scene here, like a feeling here, you know what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
just going to go the long way. And I don't think anyone else is going to do it except for us because clearly you can see how the media treats Surrey. And you can
Right.
see how even like people outside of the city, like, Surrey's pretty messed up and stuff, right? I'm like, no, come here, I'll show you, right? Just come.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go take a walk. We'll take a like 1 hour walk. I'll show you the whole bend. Um,
Mm.
and it's like, yeah, so everything just has to be like, it's just kind of personal. It has to be personal, right? Like, that's it. I know when I
Yeah,
let her
I mean, I
spiel.
can't see you, Ernie, but I can just hear in your voice that gets you fired up, right? Like you love Suri, and I feel the same way. Like I just feel like you said everything so beautifully. Like, yeah, it is up to us because if we give that control of the narrative to anybody else, they're gonna fuck it up, right?
Yeah, and we've
They're gonna
seen it
do it.
got fucked up.
Yeah, right? They're gonna fuck it up. They're gonna do it in the way that makes sense to them and benefits them. But it's up to us. We're the ones that live here. We're the ones that experience everything that they're talking about. And it's up to us to shift the narrative, but also tell the stories that are important to us. And I love that that's the thread that gets woven into all of your content. I think that's why we get along so well too. Because for me, it's like people ask me like, what do you do? And I'm like, I talk about what it's like to be a brown girl growing up in Surrey, and that's it. That's my premise. And if that's going to be the foundation of everything that I do, then everything that comes my way will be anchored in that, in that sentiment.
110%, right? Um,
Yeah.
for example, like I don't want to talk down on Beat Up Boys, right? But I feel like
Yeah.
it's already been talked down on so
Yeah.
much. So, but it's like, yeah, like that's like the weird stuff people kind of perceive of like Surrey, and I be watching that stuff, and I'm just like, it doesn't even make my blood boil. I'm just like disappointed and embarrassed. I'm like, okay, give me like 4 or 5 years. Let me finish scripting this short film. I mean, not this short
Mm.
film, this movie, and
Hmm.
then let me get like hella funding, and yeah, let me show you how it's done, and let me show you the side of Surrey that you guys don't know. You know, the kids that are out here just
Right.
trying to better themselves, the girls that are out here trying to better themselves and mend things, and let's talk
Hmm.
about that and let's showcase that.
100%. So, in our personal conversations, you've talked at length about allowing more space for men to experience, a wider range of emotions. Just like you just said now, you want to be able to have more open dialogue about, like things like about men's mental health or their experiences and relationships and love and things like that. And, I know you've said that you kind of wanted to have your character Gary also be able to like showcase that in a very Gary Arnie McFly kind of way, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, does this part of you impact the characters and storylines that you come up with? And like, how do you see yourself prioritizing that part of you moving forward in the work that you're going to do? How do you see that kind of, this idea that you have of diversifying conversations or holding space for other kinds of topics that don't necessarily get counted as traditionally male or traditionally men related kind of topics? How do you see yourself, actively prioritizing that too?
Um, so to answer your first question, like, yeah, it definitely impacts the characters and
Hmm.
storylines. I think that's pretty evident, right? And when people pick up on it, I'm so happy, right? They're like, oh,
Right.
that one episode where you're like the vest and the dopey, it represents me, right? And I'm sure that people feel that kind of thing, right? Because men do have like a harder time. I feel like not just in this community, but just overall. Um, breaking the mold and just expressing how they actually feel inside and stuff like that. So I do try and like create my characters always like that. I remember if I look all the way back, always made sure that I could I showcase like the emotions of men. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'd be like crying on camera many times and stuff. Just always trying to make sure that I'm not playing into that the other side, right?
Right.
Um, and yeah, in terms of like prioritizing this part moving forward with my work, like it's more so instead of like instead of me creating characters and masking up like, okay, how do we mask up this discussion, if that makes sense,
Hmm.
right? Let's
Hmm.
mask up this discussion and put it in a skit so people will take it as people will take it and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's so good, right? Like he's talking about this and showcasing this, and then they move on their day. I should just hop on camera and be like, hey yo, this is what I've dealt with in my life, and this is how
Right.
I've dealt with it, and start kind of a discussion, right? And that's something where the shift has kind of come to, right? Because, like I said, back to where this started, Arnie McFly was a character, a persona. Arnie
Right.
Sandhu is me, right? And if I come on as just me talking about my life, there's no character there anymore. There's a direct connection
A
with me,
person,
right?
right? A
Yeah,
human being.
exactly. And there has to be like, I don't know, but there has to be some sort of relatability. I have a good feeling there will be a relatability, right? Whether there is or there isn't, I'm gonna continue just do it because it's like I wouldn't want to like look back like 10 years from now and be like, damn, you were too scared to, you did all this other stuff, but you're too scared to
Mhm.
just hop on camera and talk about your mental health, hop on camera and talk about things you've done right and wrong in your life, talk about this experience and talk about that experience. Like, damn, like what was holding you back, right? I would never want to look back like that.
Yeah, and to even say like you were able to do everything, but you were too scared to be yourself, right?
Exactly.
You never want to look back and think that. And I think it's also like this idea of leading by example, right? That's
Exactly.
kind of my premise too. I feel like I don't know how to explain like what I'm doing half the time, but it's kind of like I'm just here, I'm being me, I'm expressing myself and expressing my experiences, my emotions, how I'm dealing with them, how I'm moving through them. And it's also almost like we all need each other, right? Like we all need to see each other doing the kind of work that we want to do. It's also
Exactly.
why we are, it's also the kind of the foundation of like the insecurity and the comparison that we feel. It's always like that person's doing something that I want. And I think what we can do is either channel anger and hate and negativity and jealousy to that person, or we find inspiration from them. And so I think if we're leading by example and we're, there's this quote that I have saved on Instagram. And it's kind of like, there's this idea of moving in silence, right? Like, don't share what you're doing, don't talk about what you're doing, but there's so much value in also openly sharing what you're going through, openly talking about and openly showing, what's happening with you.
100%.
Because what it does is it inspires somebody else to perhaps also move in a way that is similar to you, right? In a way that they've always wanted to move, but perhaps they didn't know, they didn't have the blueprint. And I think that, I always when I'm doing anything, I have like a 16 or 17-year-old girl in my mind, right? I think about her looking at me, and I think about her listening to me and her looking at my actions and what kind of an impact that's going to have on her. And I think that, with people who kind of know you, that have kind of grown up at the same time as you, or were younger and watching this Arnie McFly, when they see this person that used to make them laugh so much hopping on, Instagram story, Instagram live, talking about his mental health, I just think about what that's going to do for them. And if they're going to allow for that, if they let it in, it could be a really wonderful thing for them.
110%. I agree with you on that. Um, yeah, there's a duality to it, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely move in silence, but we got to showcase the process,
Hmm.
because there's definitely people out there just like myself who need that blueprint or need that spark to create their own blueprint.
Right, right. I mean, life is not a highlight reel, it's a whole film, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
So the last thing that I want to ask you is, I think you've kind of touched on it. This could have been the entire theme of the entire episode, but I want you to explicitly say it. What do you wish people like slash your fans? I mean, I don't even know if that's a word that you're gonna like, but what do you wish people knew about you that they might not already know?
Um, I don't know how to answer that question if I'm really like thinking about it,
Hmm.
because what I've given people of myself is, I think the best way to put it, what I've put out there is like just 10% of who I truly am, and what I have truly got to offer in the creative spaces. And moving forward, my whole goal is just to show the rest, slowly and slowly, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know how these people or fans like will take any of that. I'm not too sure, right? And
Hmm.
whatever that like may be, just because I have been in this transition period for a little bit, but that's just one thing I would want people to know, that like, yeah, what I've already put out is just like 10% of who I am, and I'm excited to show you guys the rest of the 90%, right? And yeah, that's about it, you know.
And we're stoked to see the remainder, the 90%. We're stoked to see it. And, just between me and you, like it goes back to what you said about Surrey. I think that, the reason that I have so much love for you and I really am such a cheerleader, I'm in your corner, is because I think that it's that piece, right? It's that piece of telling our stories, us being the ones that are controlling our narratives. And I think that that 90% of you is so capable of, just telling all the right stories in all the right ways. And I'm so excited to see how that's going to play out. And I think that, it's very true for you to say, like, you don't know how the people are going to react, to the ones that have been kind of with you this whole time. You don't know how they're going to react. But I think, whoever believes in this way in you, I think I said this once to you on an Instagram post as well, that, for those of us for those of us who've had the honor and the privilege of knowing the real Arnie Sandhu, we know he's got a heart of gold and we know he's got places to go. And I think that it's only a matter of time that everybody else will also find out. And that, you're going to just take Surrey by a storm, really.
Big facts, and vice versa, yo. And that's why I feel like I really wanted to hop on this podcast, because yeah, I'm not. I usually dodge out, but I know that the work that you've been doing, you've come a long way as well. I've kind of seen
Mhm.
the transition many times. Exactly when I was like, I don't know where if this is where you're supposed to be. You literally hopped out, and I was like, damn, you know what I mean? Fire, because
Yeah.
you knew that there was a next step waiting for you, and yeah, I'm just excited to keep working alongside you, and well, I think some really cool things will happen this year. That's all I can
Yeah.
say, and
Yeah. No, I'm excited. Perhaps Arnie will host a Brown Boy Guilt podcast. Who knows? We don't know what the future holds.
yeah, you don't. Who knows?
Who knows? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Arnie, for being on this episode, for being a part of season 2. It means so much to me. And I'm really excited for everything that's about to come. Take the next 30 seconds to plug anything that you'd like. If there's anything that you want the listeners to go follow, look at, anything you want, now's your chance.
All right, so follow me, Arnie Sandhu, on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and please subscribe to my second channel, Arnold Sandhu. It's a fitness slash self development channel, and
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited to show y'all what's next. Let's get it.